My parents said I wasn't allowed to travel without their permission. You're too irresponsible to leave the country. My brothers snorted. So I faked a trip to Florida with them. After an hour, I boarded a flight to Tokyo. When my cousin texted me, it was a Tuesday night. We were all at the dinner table, me, my mom, my dad, and my older brother, Cohen. The pork chops were dry, the mashed potatoes were cold, and the air was thick with judgment. I was scrolling through my phone under the table when Dad looked up and said, "What's this nonsense about you wanting to travel again?" My heart sank. I'd mentioned it, sure, but I hadn't expected him to bring it up like that, like it was some sort of crime. "I was just saying I've been saving up," I said, setting my fork down. "There's a ticket to Tokyo on sale. It's not a big deal." My mom immediately chimed in. "Tokyo? Alone? Are you out of your mind? You don't even speak the language." "That's the point, Ma. I want to experience something different. Learn something." "You can't even keep your room clean, Halden," Cohen said with a smirk. "You really think you're ready to travel halfway across the world?" "Cohen," I snapped, "I didn't ask you." Dad raised his hand to quiet us. "We've discussed this. The answer is no. You're not going abroad without our permission." I stared at him. I was 24, not 14. "I don't need your permission. I'm not a kid. You live in our house. You work part-time at a bookstore. You don't pay rent. You're not exactly in a position to make adult decisions," he said, voice steady, like he'd been waiting to say that. Mom nodded, as if this was some great family intervention. "You're impulsive, Halden. It's not that we don't believe in you. It's that you haven't proven you're ready for this kind of responsibility." That's when Cohen let out that snort. That smug, half-laugh that made my blood boil. "God, you're pathetic," he said under his breath. I pushed my chair back and stood up. "Thanks for the vote of confidence." "Sit down," Dad said. "We're not done here." "No," I said. "I think we are." That night, something in me snapped. I'd always played the role of the quiet son, the indecisive one, the one who never measured up to Cohen, the high-achieving, overconfident golden boy who still lived at home too, by the way. But no one seemed to mind that. I went to my room, shut the door, and started planning. If they weren't going to let me go, I'd just leave. So I did what any desperate, half-delusional 24-year-old would do. I created a fake family vacation. I booked 3 tickets to Florida using fake names and mock-up booking tools I found online. I made a slideshow of pictures from an Airbnb in Clearwater Beach, downloaded a fake itinerary from Google, and forwarded it all to my parents from a dummy email account. I told them I'd booked a surprise trip for the family to reconnect. They actually got excited. My mom hugged me, practically crying. My dad even gave me one of those rare, approving nods. Cohen didn't say much, just looked at me sideways like he knew something was up. When the day came, I packed a single suitcase and told them I had checked in online. We drove to Logan Airport together. My palms were sweaty the whole ride there. "Are you sure you printed the tickets?" Mom asked, reaching for her purse. "Yep," I said. "Send them to your email too." "Nice work, H," Cohen said sarcastically. "Maybe you're finally growing up." When we got to the terminal, I gave them all fake gate numbers and told them I needed to check my bag separately. We split off, and the second they disappeared into the crowd, I walked straight to the international terminal. I had booked a real one-way flight to Tokyo weeks ago under my own name using my own money. I passed through security like I belonged there, holding back a grin as I boarded the plane. It felt like freedom. For the first time in my life, I was doing something that was mine. The flight was long and strange, and I couldn't sleep. My stomach twisted with guilt and adrenaline. I kept wondering what would happen when they realized I wasn't on the flight with them. Would they panic? Call the cops? Disown me? I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't care. At least, that's what I told myself. We landed at Haneda around 5 p.m. local time. I turned on my phone as we taxied to the gate. Dozens of texts started pouring in, mostly from my mom. "Where are you? You're not on the plane? Halden, call me right now." Then I got a message from Lacey, my cousin, the only one in the family who'd ever treated me like I wasn't a total screw-up. "What the hell, Halden? Where are you?" "I saw the security footage. You're not in Florida." "Wait, a what?" I stared at the message, heart pounding. "They know. Get somewhere safe." Somewhere safe? I was in the middle of Tokyo with no plan, no contacts, no clue what she was talking about. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was Cohen. "You've really outdone yourself this time. Enjoy Tokyo while it lasts." Smiley face. That STPID smiley face. I didn't respond. I shoved the phone in my pocket and walked into the arrivals hall like a ghost. My capsule hotel was a blur. I barely slept. I kept thinking about what Lacey said. They know. Know what? That I'd delete? That I'd left? I mean, yeah. Of course they knew. But the way she said it felt heavier. More messages started coming in the next day. Lacey again. You need to call me. It's about your parents. And something I found. Halden, please. I finally called her from a payphone, just to be safe. Lacey, what the hell is going on? She didn't waste time. I found something in my mom's office. Old documents. Adoption files. My stomach flipped. What? You were adopted, Halden. Your birth certificate, it's not real. Your name, your birthday, everything. It was changed. Covered up. I was silent. I don't know all the details yet, she went on, but the emails I found, your parents were working with some private agency. There's a name that keeps coming up. Marilyn Scott. Who is that? I think she's your birth mom. Everything around me started to spin. I sat down on the sidewalk outside a ramen shop, legs shaking. You're serious? Yes. And Halden. They were tracking you. There's more. Your dad emailed someone 2 days ago. He said, he's gone. Should we proceed? Proceed with what? I don't know. But you need to stay off the grid. I couldn't breathe. I had come here to escape. Now I was running from something I didn't even understand. For a while, I just sat there in Tokyo, phone to my ear, listening to my cousin breathe on the other end. It was surreal, like I was watching myself from outside my body. People passed by, chatting, laughing, on their way to something normal. Something I didn't have anymore. Lacey, I finally said. My voice cracked. Are you sure? I wouldn't call you from my mom's office phone unless I was damn sure, she said. I saw the papers. Court filings, sealed records, some weird, non-disclosure agreement thing your dad signed 24 years ago. It had your name on it, or, well, the name you were given before Halden. I went cold. Wait, what name? Hold on, she said. I heard some rustling like she was flipping through a folder. Here. It says, Alice Boone. Born in Vermont. March 3rd, 1999. That wasn't my birthday. My ID says April 12th. She kept talking. It's a closed adoption. Private. But the name Marilyn Scott shows up as the biological mother. Then, 6 months later, your records were amended. That's when you became Halden Turvan. Turvan. I spit the name out like it tasted wrong. You were 6 months old when your name changed. There's a weird section blacked out in the paperwork. Like, literal Sharpie blackout. It looks like there was some agency name there, but it's gone now. My hands started shaking. My passport was fake. My life was fake. My family fake? Why would they do this to me? I whispered. I don't know, Lacey said quietly. But it wasn't just to raise a kid. There's something else here. Something bigger. I pressed my back against the wall behind me and closed my eyes. A part of me wanted to throw my phone into the gutter, buy a train ticket to the mountains, and disappear. But I couldn't. Not now. Do you think Mara's still alive? I asked. Maybe. Marilyn Scott is listed as a freelance translator in Osaka. No photo. No social media. But the timing fits. A flicker of something moved through me. Hope, maybe. Or fear. How do I find her? Lacey hesitated. I already emailed her. I used a burner email and said I had questions about a closed adoption in Vermont from 1999. I didn't say your name. She replied. My heart stopped. What did she say? She said she'd be willing to meet if the person in question came in person. I sat upright. You're kidding. I can forward you the email. She sent an address. Small apartment complex in Suits, outside Osaka. Everything in me buzzed at once. I was scared, yeah. But I also felt something sharp and new. Like for the first time in my life, I had a direction. Something real to move toward. I thanked Lacey, promised to keep in touch, and booked a train to Osaka for the next morning. The ride down was quiet. I kept catching my reflection in the window. My face looked different somehow. Like I was studying someone I didn't know. Alice Boone. The name didn't feel like mine, but it made something deep in my chest ache. It was raining when I got off the train at Shinosaka Station. The streets were slick and humming with energy. I walked in a daze toward the address Lacey had sent. The apartment building was modest, gray brick, 4 stories tall, tucked between a convenience store and a little bakery that smelled like cinnamon and burnt sugar. I stood across the street for 5 full minutes, heart pounding, before I finally worked up the nerve to ring the buzzer. There was a pause, then a soft voice crackled through the speaker. Yes. I cleared my throat. I'm here to see Mara. My name is Halden. But I think I might be Alice. Silence. Then, come up. 302. The door buzzed. My legs moved on their own. I climbed the stairs slowly, trying to rehearse what I'd say. What could I say? Hey, I faked a family trip, ran away to Tokyo, and might be the son you lost 2 decades ago? I raised my hand to knock, but the door opened before I touched it. A woman stood there. Early 40s maybe, pale skin, dark hair streaked with gray. Her eyes were a shade of green that made me blink. Something in her face looked familiar in a way that unsettled me, like looking at an old photo and seeing your own eyes in someone else's. "Alice?" she asked softly. I nodded. She stepped aside. "Come in." The apartment was tiny but neat. Tatami mats, books stacked on every surface, plants trailing down from windowsills. I sat at the low table in the center of the room, knees awkwardly folded beneath me. She poured tea without asking. "I didn't think I'd ever see you," she said finally. "I thought. They told me I wasn't allowed to. Ever." "They?" I asked. She sat across from me. Her hands were trembling. "The agency. The people who arranged everything. It was all done behind closed doors. They promised me you were going to a good family. That it was final. No contact, no rights, no questions. Why'd you give me up?" She flinched at the question, and I regretted how sharp it sounded. "I didn't want to," she said quietly. "But I was 21. They told me if I didn't comply, they'd make things hard for me. They'd blackmark my name on every job board. They'd ruin me. And they weren't bluffing. I'd already gone public about something they didn't want exposed." I leaned in. "What was it?" She hesitated. "There was an internal investigation. International child placements. Some of them weren't legit. Children trafficked through private adoption pipelines. They used shell agencies, falsified identities, sometimes even faked birth records." My stomach churned. "And I was one of those kids?" She nodded slowly. "I tried to fight it," she said. "I tried to get you back. But they said you'd already been placed with a stable family. That they changed your name. Moved states. Told me I'd never find you even if I looked." I stared at her, trying to find something, anything that felt familiar. "So all these years. I thought you were gone," she said. "I didn't even know if you were alive." I looked down at the tea in my hands. It had gone cold. "They lied to you," I said, voice hollow. "They lied to me too." "I know." There was a long pause. Just the sound of rain tapping against the window. Finally, she said, "I didn't name you Alice, by the way. That was the name the agency assigned." "What was my name?" Her eyes welled. "I called you Toby. Short for Tobias. Just for the few days I had you." That broke something in me. The room tilted slightly. I felt like crying, but I didn't. I didn't know how. She reached across the table, not quite touching me. "You don't have to call me Mom," she said. I want you to know I never forgot you." I looked at her then, really looked. "I don't know what this means," I said. "Me either. But I want to find out." The next few days passed in a blur. I didn't go back to Tokyo. I didn't call my parents. I stayed in a tiny Airbnb 3 train stops away from Mara's apartment in Suits, where I slept on a thin futon in a room the size of a walk-in closet. But I wasn't there to be comfortable. I was there to understand who the hell I really was. I met Mara every afternoon. She didn't push. She didn't try to make up for 2 decades overnight. We just talked. At first it was about nothing. Train lines, bookstores, Japanese food. Then, slowly, about everything. "I was working for the embassy," she told me one afternoon, as we sat in a quiet park drinking canned coffee from a vending machine. "Translation and consular work. My Japanese was decent enough. I'd translate documents, help with paperwork, attend the occasional meeting. But that's not how I got pulled in." She paused. "It started with a girl. 14. Pregnant. Alone. She came in asking for help, said her baby was being taken without her consent. They were fast-tracking her adoption. That was the word she used. Fast-track." My stomach tightened. "Was it legal?" I asked. "Barely," Mara said. "They had lawyers. Private contracts. The kind where the paper looks clean, but what's underneath is rotten. Girls like her, poor young foreign, didn't stand a chance." "And that's the agency you dealt with when they took me?" She nodded. "They called themselves Willow Grove Placement Services." Sounded sweet, right? Pastoral. Safe. But behind that was a network of adoption brokers, lawyers, doctors, and parents. Wealthy Americans looking for quick, quiet placements. No waiting lists. No oversight. I stared down at my coffee. And my parents were part of that. Mara looked at me, her face gentle but tired. I don't know what they knew. Maybe they just wanted a baby and didn't ask questions. Or maybe they asked the wrong ones. I didn't say anything. I filed a complaint. Brought documents. Names. Timelines. I went public. 2 weeks later, I was suspended. The girl vanished. My contract was terminated. Then someone came to my apartment and told me, in no uncertain terms, to drop it or leave the country. "And you were pregnant?" I asked. She hesitated. "Already had you. You were maybe 5 weeks old. They told me I had a choice. Hand you over peacefully or risk unfit mother accusations, deportation, and worse. I was 21. Alone. No money. No legal backup. What choice did I have? I didn't respond. I didn't know what I would have done. That night, back at the Airbnb, I couldn't sleep. I opened my phone, scrolled through old photos, birthdays, high school, college. Cohen in almost every frame. My mom in her favorite sun hat. Dad with his permanent scowl. It was like looking at strangers dressed up as a family. I started writing an email to Lacey. Subject: still here body. Mara's telling the truth. I believe her. There's more going on than we ever thought. That name, Willow Grove, it's real. Can you see if it still exists? Maybe under a different name? I'll keep digging here. Then, after a pause, I added, thank you. You're the only one who never lied to me. The next morning, Mara took me to a small library tucked behind a temple. It looked like something out of a movie. Paper lanterns, bamboo fences, sliding doors. Inside, she introduced me to an old woman named Michiko, who apparently used to work at the embassy archives. She's off the books now, Mara whispered. But she remembers everything. Michiko nodded at me, her face wrinkled but bright. You look like her, she said. Like Mara? Like someone who had something stolen. We sat at a wooden table while she laid out an old file folder. Yellowed paper, faded print, redacted lines. This, she said, tapping one page, is a placement record from Willow Grove. See here? Date, child ID, destination city. Boston, I said, reading upside down. That's where you ended up, Mara said softly. Another sheet showed internal memos between embassy staffers. Expedited processing, one note read. Subject: EB0039. EB, I muttered. Alice Boone. Michiko nodded. You weren't the only one. I looked at her. How many? We don't know. Dozens? Maybe more. Some placements were legitimate. Some. Not. A pit opened in my chest. Why didn't anyone stop it? They tried, Mara said. But these things hide in plain sight. One layer of legality on top of another. Good people don't ask questions. Bad people know how to answer them. I felt a cold sweat creep up my back. I need to know everything, I said. If I'm going to confront them, my parents, I need to know what they did. What they chose to ignore. Mara looked at me for a long time. Then we'll find out together. That night, I got an email from Lacey. Found it. Willow Grove rebranded in 2010. New name, Everwell Family Services. Same directors. Same shady board members. It's still operating in 3 states, including New Hampshire. I also found something else. A transaction. Sealed court record. Your parents paid them $145,000. Looks like you weren't just adopted. You were bought. I stared at the screen, heart hammering. My mouth went dry. It wasn't just a lie. It was a transaction. I wasn't their son. I was a purchase. The word bought echoed in my head for hours. It wasn't just the number, $145,000, that gutted me. It was the confirmation of something I'd suspected ever since I boarded that plane to Tokyo. I wasn't raised by parents. I was raised by people who paid for me. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my back in the tiny Airbnb, watching the ceiling, heart pounding in my ears like footsteps behind me. At some point, I got up, wrapped myself in the blanket, and sat on the balcony overlooking a dark alleyway. It was quiet. Still. But nothing in me felt still. When morning came, I didn't message Mara right away. Instead, I opened my laptop and started researching. I found Everwell Family Services website. It looked clean polished. Stock photos of smiling families and soft pastel colors. Their tagline was, "Creating Forever Families." I scrolled down to the Our Story section. Sanitized history. No mention of Willow Grove. No mention of international placements or embassies or anything remotely controversial. Just vague phrases about legacy, trusted care, and discreet solutions for unique adoption situations. But I recognized 2 names on the board of directors. The same names in Michiko's records. They just changed the business name, changed the location, and kept everything else running. And worse, there was a tab labeled Donor and Supporter Portal. Private access. Password protected. I didn't have access. But Lacey might. I met Mara that afternoon, a little later than usual. She noticed something was off before I even said hello. You didn't sleep. Barely. We walked down a narrow street in the Umeda district. Cafes buzzed with people on lunch breaks. The noise around us felt like static. I got more from Lacey, I said. She stopped walking. They paid for me. $145,000. Sealed records. But Lacey found a transaction tied to the same month my name was changed. Mara didn't speak. Her lips pressed together, jaw tight. I'm not just adopted, I said. I'm merchandise. Don't say that. It's the truth. No, she said firmly. You're not what they tried to make you. What they did was wrong, criminal even. But you were never the product. You were the one they tried to erase. I looked at her. Why does it still feel like none of this is real? Because you're grieving, she said gently. Not just what you lost, but what you thought you had. We sat on a bench outside a bookstore. I didn't say anything for a long time. Then I asked, why didn't they ever tell me? She looked down at her hands. Because they knew. Deep down, they knew it wouldn't survive the light. Later that evening, I got a message from Lacey. Got into the donor portal. You need to see this. She attached a file. I opened it expecting spreadsheets, dollar signs, dates, names. But what I found was worse. Case summaries. Each one labeled by a code. Each one written in cold, professional language. And each one is disturbingly familiar. Subject EB0039. American male. Mixed heritage. Cleared for international placement. Psychological screening, not required. No known medical complications. Placement cost, $145,000, private contract. Adjusted birth date, April 12, 99. There it was. Me. On a list. Like a product on a shelf. Another case caught my eye. Subject ZM0134. Female. Age 2. Chinese national. Rescued from abandonment. Placement fee waived due to diplomatic referral. And another. And another. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. There was even a tab for post-placement adjustments, where they detailed cases of children being returned and rematched. Returned. Like they were Amazon packages. I closed my laptop, hands shaking. My head was spinning. I couldn't believe no one ever blew the whistle. No one ever stopped it. What kind of system allowed this? What kind of people turned a blind eye? What kind of parents looked a kid in the face and said, "We love you," while hiding all of it? I called Mara. I want to go back, I said. I need to look them in the eye. There was a pause. Are you sure? No, I said. But I don't think I can move forward until I do. We didn't talk for a few seconds. I'll go with you, she said. I blinked. What? To the States. When you're ready. I'll go with you. I wasn't expecting that. And I didn't know what to say. She continued, you don't have to face them alone, Ellis. I flinched at the name. I don't know who I am anymore, I muttered. She stepped closer, her voice steady. You're not the name they gave you. You're not the label the agency printed. You're not the dollar amount in a sealed contract. You are you. And you're mine. Even if we missed 24 years. The tears came fast and unexpectedly. I turned away, embarrassed, but she just placed her hand on my shoulder and didn't say another word. That night, I wrote out a message to my dad. I didn't send it. I wrote out another one. To my mom. To Cohen. None of them felt right. None of them felt like they carried the weight of what I needed to say. I stared at the screen, scrolling through old family group texts. Photos of us on the beach. Christmas mornings. Cohen showing off his new car. Me in the background, always blurry, always out of focus. And now I know why. I wasn't part of the picture. Not really. I was the piece they forced to fit. And soon, I'd confront the people who tried to convince me that it was love. I booked the flight a week later. Osaka to Boston. One way. Mara came with me. She insisted, but not in a pushy way. She just said, you shouldn't go back to them alone. Not after everything. We didn't talk much on the flight. She slept most of the way. I stared out the window, trying to imagine what it would feel like to see them again. My parents. My childhood home. Cohen. I wasn't sure if I was angrier or just tired. We landed late, picked up a rental car, and drove in silence through the familiar streets of my old neighborhood. It all looked the same. Trees still bare, the local diner is still open 24 hours, and that sharp bend on Waverly Street where I used to wipe out on my bike. Nothing had changed. But I had. I didn't tell them I was coming. I wanted to look them in the eyes before they had a chance to put on their masks. No rehearsed apologies. No half-truths. Mara parked 2 houses down from the place I grew up in. I got out first. My hands were cold, sweaty. I stood there a second, then walked up the steps and rang the bell. It was my mom who answered. She froze in the doorway. Halden. Her voice cracked, but it wasn't emotion. I panicked. My dad appeared behind her, still in his robe. He looked older than I remembered. His eyes narrowed when he saw me. Well, he said, look who finally came crawling back. I didn't respond. I just said, we need to talk. My mom opened the door wider, reluctantly. Come in. I stepped inside. The house smelled the same. Lemon cleaner and something burnt. The same rug I'd tripped on 1,000 times. The same framed photo of Korn in his high school baseball uniform on the hallway wall. He got a shrine. I got nothing. We sat in the living room. They are across from me. I didn't sit still. I pulled out a folder from my backpack and dropped it on the table between us. "What's this?" my dad asked. "Everything," I said. "Emails, documents, bank records, the Everwell donor list, my original birth certificate." My mom's hands trembled as she reached for it. He didn't flinch. "I know," I said, "what you did. I know I wasn't adopted through some loving legal process. I know you paid for me, through an agency that trafficked kids under fake identities. And I know you knew exactly what kind of place it was." My mom's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about," my dad said flatly. "Don't insult me," I snapped. He shrugged. "We gave you a life. You should be grateful." My voice dropped. "You bought me. Lied to me for 2 decades. Treated me like I was a burden anytime I didn't turn out like Cohen. And when I started asking questions, you tried to shut me down. We protected you," my mom whispered. "No," I said, standing up straighter. "You protected your secret. You protected your image. Not me." They didn't say anything. "I met her, by the way," I added. "Mara. My real mother. The one you erased." My mom closed her eyes like she was trying to unhear it. "She told me everything," I continued. "How she was forced to give me up. How you worked through that agency to get a kid without a waitlist. How you paid extra to have my birth record scrubbed." Still no response. "I used to wonder why I never felt like I belonged," I said. "Now I know." My dad leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "So what now? You're gonna sue us." "No," I said. "I'm going to destroy your reputation." He blinked. I pulled out a USB drive and placed it on the coffee table. "This has everything. And I've already sent copies to 2 investigative journalists and 1 lawyer. Everwell's going to be under federal review within a month." My mom gasped. My dad's mouth tightened into a straight line. "You'll be subpoenaed," I said. "You'll be asked about your connection. About the sealed payments. Your names are on documents, Dad. You're not invisible." He looked at me like he didn't recognize me. Then I smiled. "Gratitude, right? You wanted me to be grateful." I leaned forward. "Well, I am. Not for what you did, but for who it made me." I turned to leave. "I don't need your permission to live my life. And I don't need your approval to know I deserve better." As I reached the door, Cohen appeared in the hallway. He was wearing gym shorts and holding a protein shake. He stopped short when he saw me. "Wow," he said. "Look who's back from his little vacation." I walked past him. "Going already?" he asked smugly. "Didn't get the apology you came for?" I turned around. "I didn't come for an apology," I said. "I came to make sure none of you ever do this to anyone else again." He rolled his eyes. "You're still as dramatic as ever." I smiled. "And you're still as irrelevant as ever." Then I walked out. Outside, Mara was waiting. She stood when she saw me. "Well?" she asked. "It's done," I said. We got back in the car. I didn't look back. On the drive to the hotel, I rolled down the window and let the cold air sting my face. I wasn't Ellis Boone. I wasn't Halden Turvan. I was something new. Something in between. Something of mine. Later that year, Everwell was officially shut down. A federal investigation confirmed what we already knew. Dozens of children placed through illegal channels, birth records altered, vulnerable parents silenced. My parents' names were mentioned in 2 articles. Not arrested. Not sued. But their reputation in town? Gone. Dad stepped down from the school board. Mom stopped attending PTA events. People talked. People remembered. They were finally seen for who they were. As for me, I stayed in Japan. Took a full-time job teaching English in Kyoto. Got my own apartment, tiny and quiet, just the way I like it. Mara and I meet every Sunday. Sometimes we walk, sometimes we talk, sometimes we just sit in silence. There's no pressure to catch up on lost years. We're just building something new. Something honest. She still calls me Toby sometimes. I won't stop her. Because now, the name finally means something.